r/AskReddit. Therapists of Reddit, what's the worst mental health advice you've seen a movie or TV therapist give? If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, or else White Dog will be sad. Not a movie, real life. My friend shared their suicidal thoughts, and the motherfuckers started going off about reincarnation. Some therapists they turned out to be. I'm in a clinic with many suicidal people, thoughts and attempts. One day, my roommate was called to the doctor, not the therapist who started asking him why he hadn't killed himself yet, and that suicidal thoughts are very normal, and he just would have to learn to live with them. This was more than 2 weeks ago. We're still raging on this doctor. Not advice per se, but I hate when the media portrays people with chronic mental illness, i.e., psychosis, bipolar disorder, as violent. A small percentage can be. I know a schizophrenic dude, he's a fucking oddball that's for sure, but he's a pretty alright dude. I wouldn't hang out with him on the daily, but he isn't anywhere near what is usually portrayed in movies etc. Yes. I have been diagnosed with a severe bipolar disorder, and I've had a few people actually scoot away from me, or tell me they are surprised because I don't seem like a mean violent person when I tell them. It's really annoying. My episodes were never violent to anyone except myself, and that just went in with the depression, and no one else ever saw that side of me. Thankfully I am on good and steady medication now, but bro, bipolar does not mean violent. Stop the stigma. So many people who aren't therapists replying. Anyways, as a therapist, what annoys me about media portrayals of therapy, is that we just sit and listen. That's not therapy, and constantly agreeing with your client is also not therapy. Also, that we give advice. The only advice I give, is suggestions for coping skills or DBT skills, how to use cognitive restructuring, etc. I don't actually give advice because that's not my place. Can you be a bit more specific on what you usually do? So the basic things are empathetic listening, reflecting and reframing, and validation. The treatment depends on the problem, but would be CBT, DBT, solutions-focused therapy, trauma therapy, etc. The therapeutic content is often about challenging maladaptive thinking patterns and learning new skills. Not a therapist, but a mental health tech in the military. We get to do smaller patient loads. The most basic thing is trying to change someone's thoughts and behaviors. Well, help them see negative ones and turn them positive. Basic example, you text your significant other and they do not reply. They must be cheating and do not love you anymore. Take that thought and behaviors that can follow and change it to the more likely, the significant other is just busy right now or not near his or her phone, try messaging him or her later. Not a therapist, I've been chronically suicidal for years. One night at university, I was having a terrible attack. It sounds too frivolous to call it an episode, so I called the university police, who then by standard practice connect me to whichever university psychologist was on call. I'm not joking, this woman said, "Yeah, I know who you are. Your name has come up in counseling center meetings before, and you really need to get over yourself. I have a daughter with a disability who has it way worse than you, so really, you have no reason to be so depressed." How this woman was a licensed, employed psychologist is beyond me. But I quit relying on other people when I become suicidal. I'd rather suffer alone and take the chance I'll die than ever face that shit again. Reminds me of my old high school psychologist, who constantly broke the confidentiality law to gossip and get people in trouble for no reason. An old friend of mine not sure how she's doing now, PTSD, so the school would take her out of class to see the bitch. My friend quickly realized how bad she was, since she has an actual trained professional she goes to. She started to just tell her about her day or week, and once mentioned one of our guy friends bought some sparklers. You know, the little ones you put on birthday cakes. Well, the bitch immediately goes to the principal and the fucking police, to try to get him suspended. The bitch told them that our guy friend was extremely dangerous, to both himself and others. He was dragged into the office, his parents were there, as were the police. When the bitch explained what it actually was, somehow she wasn't fucking fired, or even fined for wasting police time. Not a therapist, but my mom is. She says that most therapists portrayed in TV, violate tons of rules and it annoys her to no end. And she's never seen a good therapist on TV ever, apparently. Show her the Netflix show, Hannibal. It's a pretty okay portrayal of psychiatrists, and the rules being broken are of course just the psychopathic cannibal manipulating his victims. I'm not a therapist, but it annoys me how often people say, some people have mental health. No, we all have mental health, just at different levels. Some people have good mental health. Yeah, I often hear people say, so and so suffers from mental health. Like, come on. That, A, doesn't make sense, and B, shows you probably don't understand what you are talking about. The movie, 50-50, where she sleeps with her client. That's a big no-no. Crime time. Also, it's hard to portray in movies just how long the process therapy can take for people, and there are a lot of ethical things that occur that advance the plot of a movie, but shouldn't happen in the real world. I've been in therapy for a few years now for PTSD. Because of the inaccurate timeline portrayal in the media, I was disheartened at first, but you can't just flip a switch and fix some things. It took me nearly 20 years and multiple combat deployments to get where I'm at. Not specifically a movie, but that shirt that says something along the lines of, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. I've seen multiple people completely alienate and cause profound problems due to not properly managing mental illness. They don't attempt to adjust their lifestyle, meds, therapy, support groups, diet, exercise, and expect the world to somehow write them a hall pass for the damage they have done. Mental illness is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. If your actions negatively affect other people when you aren't at your best, and you aren't doing anything to help yourself, you are being selfish in my opinion. I'm a very patient person with my own issues that I address, but I can't understand how others don't realize the impact they can have on their own friends and family by not even trying to get healthy. I am bipolar, and I have a rule. I am responsible for how I act, no matter how I feel. I don't get to say or do terrible things to the people I love, and then say sorry, I was having a bad day. That doesn't erase the thoughts that I planted in my 12-year-old's head, or repair the damage I may have done to my marriage. Of course, I screw up sometimes, but thinking about how I am affecting other people helps me maintain. Someone put it into words. This is so true. People will use this as an excuse to be crappy people. Sometimes it's not because of their mental health though. If someone cheated on their significant other, they'd usually use an excuse that the significant other wasn't giving them enough attention, and then use the excuse if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best, which is turning things on the other person, which is what most people who use this excuse do. Turn things on other people. I can't stand Dr. Phil. His approach is a type of bullying. Yelling at parents and clients because their behavior isn't acceptable, and in front of hundreds of people. Yikes. Dr. Phil is fucking cancer. Remember that episode where he brought the bum fights guy in and then acted like he couldn't stand him when the guy dressed up as him? Not a therapist, but there's an episode of George Lopez, where George's mother, Benny, becomes depressed after she loses her house in a fire. She lays down and cries the whole episode. At the end, George finds her dog that had ran away from the fire, and after it chases George through the house, she laughs at him and her depression is cured. Most trivializing portrayal of depression I've seen. Not necessarily a therapist's advice, but lots of people will tell someone with mental health issues that they just need to pray more or give it up to God. I know it's an attempt to be helpful, but can be so counteractive for someone with mental health struggles, like it's their fault for not having enough faith. My father is like this. When I was diagnosed with OCD, his response was, well, I have OCD too, I just think about what God wants me to do and I do it. That's not how this works. Then when he found out I also have bipolar disorder and was getting help for it, he keeps trying to convince me that I don't need doctors or all the medications. He honestly thinks that I'm just medicating sin and character flaws, and if I pray to God for forgiveness, he'll heal me. Not a therapist, but I have clinical depression, and have been to the hospital for it. When people say that everything will be okay, or just be positive, shit like that doesn't help, and anyone who has dipped into a depressive state will tell you that. In terms of TV therapists, in movies and TV it makes it look like it's just a few sessions of therapy and everything is okay. Also not the case. Some people will spend their whole lives going to therapy. I've been in therapy since I was in the 3rd grade, for example. There have been times when someone told me, everything will be okay, and it helped me because what they really meant is, I am here for you and I care about you. Just be positive is the worst piece of shit advice I have ever heard though. Therapist here. For me, it is when movies portray therapy as something that happens quickly. Like 5 to 6 sessions and you're cured or better. Also, how some therapists are really quick to send a client to the hospital. And all of the ethic issues. Especially when you see therapists discuss their clients with friends or when they have sex with a client. Thanks for watching. Subscribe below for more daily content.